office environment. For folks who are joining us for the first time, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to AtlanTec. AtlanTec is now in its 7th year, first founded in 2015. It's grown every year, year by year, and this is the 2nd year we're running on the WebEx platform. Hopefully we'll get to meet everyone in person next year when we're back live for events. I'm delighted to welcome folks not just from the Galway and the West of Ireland community, but also from all of Ireland and from beyond. So Céad to folks who are joining us from outside of Ireland. Today we're meeting with Cisco, as I said, Helena, Barry and Gerry, who I'll introduce in just a moment. I want to take a step back and just very quickly talk about AtlanTec and what AtlanTec is all about. And as I do that, I'm letting people in. So AtlanTec was founded in 2015. As I said, it's grown year on year. It was introduced to the Galway IT community as a way to connect folks within Galway and the West of Ireland and share and spread knowledge within the IT community. But it's also a method, and we've used it to showcase the West of Ireland as a prime location to develop software and as a world-class location to start a business and to grow your business. What I would suggest, the AtlanTec website is up and running obviously for this year. There are a ton of more sessions happening throughout the rest of the week, including today. I would suggest you visit atlantec.ie, register for any sessions you wish to join over the course of the week, and we'll also be recording these sessions to make them available after the week is over. So in terms of the AtlanTec, just keep an eye on the hashtags and AtlanTec Fest, the Twitter handle. So if you are tweeting about the event today or during the week, we will ask you to use hashtag AtlanTec or visit AtlanTec Fest, our Twitter homepage. Okay, so as I said, welcome folks. My name is Patrick Hughes. I'm a Senior Product Manager in the Cisco WebEx organization. We're going to take just a moment or two before I introduce the guys. If everyone can take out their phone, we're going to run a Slido session in a moment, which will kind of allow you to engage with your colleagues and people who have joined the session. A quick word of thanks to our sponsors. So ultimately AtlanTec is run by a committee of volunteers. So we're doing this outside of work hours and so on. Without these sponsors, it would not be possible for AtlanTec to continue to grow and continue to be staged each year. So a huge thank you to our sponsors this year and in past years who've always supported our organization and our committee. So as I said, if you want to take out your phones right now, turn on your camera and point your camera to the QR code on the left-hand side. We'll ask you to join in a quick poll. So we're wondering where you're joining us from today. Is it a city nearby? Is it a town? Is it from Galway? Are you joining us from outside of Ireland? We'd love to hear. So point your QR code or your camera to the QR code. If for whatever reason the QR code is not working, you can visit slido.com and enter the 6-digit number on the left-hand side. So let's see where you're from today, folks.
Surprise.
Surprise, yeah. Someone from Mauritius, good to see.
Ballinrobe.
Yeah, just Mayo people on the call as well.
Marafelt, great.
Sligo, great. And we obviously have Gerry and the guys are based in the Dublin office, I should say. So I'm hoping one of the guys will take out their phone and add in Dublin office, right? And while you're on that, so while your screens are open, the guys obviously are going to talk about, the post-COVID office environment. So we'd love to hear, once our offices open back up, how many days a week do you think you'll be in the office? Will it be a hybrid? Will you be in 5 days a week? Will you be doing a small number of days? So we'd love to hear what you're thinking. Okay, so we're seeing like three days being quite predominant, and about 20% are saying fully remote. So it's interesting, we've had zero response for 4 or 5 days, so most people are looking at a kind of a hybrid half and half working environment. Okay, you can feel free to add your responses to this session during the presentation. We will come back to Slido at a later stage during this session, but interesting to see the responses here. Okay, so very quickly, I'll introduce the team here. So I'll start with Helena. Helena is part of Cisco's Country Digital Acceleration Program. It's an investment fund to accelerate the digitalization of countries which Cisco operates in. The program has been running for 5 years and operates now across 39 countries. And Helena runs the program office for this program in EMEA. And then Barry, on the right-hand side, is a technical solutions architect with Cisco. For over 15 years, he's combining expertise across business, tech, and people to deliver business outcomes. And as Barry would say himself, the last 18 months have been the most challenging technically, but also the most rewarding in his career as he's assisted customers to help pivot through the business and technical transitions are required and brought about by COVID-19. And then last but not least, Gerry is a Cisco Collab specialist, working with customers and partners in both Ireland and Scotland. Gerry has over 40 years experience in the Irish telecommunications industry and has been with Cisco for 21 of those 40 years. And during those 21 years, Gerry has witnessed firsthand the growth and development of Cisco's technology stack. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Gerry and Barry and Helena to present today's session. So let me pass you the ball, Barry. I'll pass the ball to the room. And you should have host capabilities now. So the floor is yours.
Good morning, Patrick. Good afternoon, everybody. As Patrick said, Gerry's my name, and I'm joined by Helena and Barry, who will also help me with the session. So, without further ado, let's kick off. The subject is return to the office and how Cisco and other companies in this sector are planning and preparing for what is now the new hybrid workforce. So, Barry, if you give me the next one. So, we are facing the biggest, there's no doubt about it, this is the biggest future of work compelling event that we've ever seen. I think it's fair to say we've ever seen. 98% of companies will have, and you've seen from the survey we did before we started, a huge number of companies will have a true hybrid workforce for the first time ever. Some companies have never had a hybrid workforce, have never had a work from home policy, and it suddenly, all of a sudden it has evolved, it's happened. And as we know, historically, workplaces today are not designed to be hybrid. They're meant to be office-based. Not a lot of companies today require people to attend, but that has all changed. But then companies that have survived this, that have managed to embrace a hybrid or remote working philosophy, they will start to they'll start to pull away from the competition. And we're already beginning to see this, particularly with SMB and commercial space. And it is without doubt the biggest change or biggest transition we've seen within industry in the last probably several decades. So Barry, next slide please, Barry. And for all of us, working from home was never permanent. We never had a working from home solution. It was never designed to be permanent. Even the situation we're in now is not designed to be permanent. And even the technology we're developing today is not meant to be a full 100% working from home solution. It will be hybrid, and looks like hybrid is where we're heading for. So to reinforce this is Chuck Robbins. He's the Cisco CEO. His view is that we are going to have a hybrid workforce. I guess in Cisco, we were fairly fortunate in that pre-COVID, we did have the ability to hybrid work. We could work from home if we did not have to be in the office. The reason we came to the office was to meet colleagues, was to collaborate, was to meet customers and meet partners. But outside of that, we did have quite a strong hybrid workplace philosophy. And Barry's going to talk a bit more about how Cisco has behaved pre-COVID and during COVID. And according to Chuck, we will be spending less time in the office as we embrace the hybrid workplace philosophy as we go forward. And this is very, very topical for a lot of us. If you were to do one of the questions on Slido, perhaps could have been, Patrick, how many people have actually had a vaccine? Would have been interested to find out, because I know, to be fair to the HSE, bar what's happening to them at the moment, unfortunately, they have done a sterling role in rolling out vaccines throughout the country, and it's coming gradually sneaking down the age bracket. So this has radically altered our perception of our behaviour during COVID. Yes, vaccines are arriving, and yes, we are beginning to look at how are we going to deal with returning to the office. What programs are in place within businesses? What tools do we have to assist returning to the offices? What technology is available to help us, particularly around video, particularly around this hybrid workplace philosophy? Travel is going to be reduced because we've now gotten used to the idea of remote meetings, joining meetings remotely. So we foresee a reduction in travel. We'll have a lot more flexibility in our locations, and Helena is going to talk about some of the initiatives we have around, digital hubs and what the concept of digital hub is and how we're getting involved in some of those initiatives. And then remote workers and flexible working hours are becoming more and more prevalent for us.
Okay. So we decided to, so thanks Gerry for that. So Barry Redmond is my name, and when we were thinking about this session and we talked about, the future of work and the hybrid workplace, what we decided to do is this is the future. So we don't have all the answers, right? And what we decided to share with you is what's Cisco's approach to this, right? Cisco internally, as we look at our organization, right? So today, we're a distributed company. We've 70,000 plus employees. We continue to make acquisitions. So most recently, even in the WebEx space alone, we would have had Slido, Socio, Voicea. So there's constantly new companies being added under that Cisco umbrella. So it's an organization that's constantly in flux. So what we're going to do is, or what I'm going to do over the next couple of slides, is share our thinking on how we're going to operate as an organization when it comes to this post-COVID world and hybrid working. In terms of Cisco and what we do, we're in existence over 35 years now, and those that don't know us, right, we essentially connect people to devices, to application, and that is our strategy, right, and doing that in a secure fashion. So what we've done is we're also very, very conscious of how we support employees, right? And this also manifests itself in how we actually score in Great Place to Work environment as well. So we started on this next generation workplace program probably July last year, right? And we're still learning, right? And we're still gathering data, and we're still harnessing that data to understand what our strategy is going to be. But essentially, this is the framework of what we're going to deliver when it comes to this next generation workplace program. So ultimately, what we want to do is to put this in place to continue to allow Cisco to grow as an organization, right? To put in the correct policies, right? And that's a key thing, the correct policies that will impact positively on employee engagement, right? And what I'm going to focus on, though, is the values in the middle here, right? So whatever we do, we're focused on these three values. The first one is around leveling the playing field. So now, as we speak to you, probably everyone is on a level playing field, right? We're all connected, probably either laptops, web clients, mobile devices, maybe apart from myself and Gerry and Patrick in Galway, who's sitting in front of a video codec, we're more or less using the same technology and we more or less have the same experience. So what we want to do is, no matter what programs we put in place or where people choose to work from, is that we want to have a level playing field, that the same services, capabilities, interactions are available across the board, no matter where that person chooses to work. The next thing, and this came out within the data, is we also need this to be sustainable. One of the biggest insights we got from the surveys and the consultancy work that we got done is that in terms of our output hasn't changed too much. Our output has more or less stayed the same. But to deliver that output, people are working longer hours. So output is staying the same, but the work is going up. So we have a productivity issue, right? So that was one of the biggest insights we got out of that problem. So whatever we do, we need to make sure that we're not overworking our employee base, and whatever we do, it leads to sustainable work practices. And then probably one of the benefits of this COVID is, you know, we have seen a reduction in travel, air miles, all that good stuff. So that is another one of our key tenets that we continue along in that vein, that we won't be doing as much traveling as what we've done previously. So as I mentioned, then the program objectives based on those values is to enable employees to work from anywhere, wherever they choose, in a sustainable way. So getting that productivity back in line and keeping that output going in the right direction. But alongside that policy of working from home or working from anywhere, we also want to enable what we refer to now as collaboration hubs. And that's when people come to the office. They come to the office to connect to people, to have real in-person experiences. So we're really looking at how we redesign and how we develop our office spaces to deliver that. And to do that, we really need our leaders. And this has been real training over the last couple of months. We would have had what's referred to as Teams Week last week, where our leaders, we expect them to be really driving home this hybrid message and how our teams can work effectively in that environment. So it's very much a level that, or a message that's delivered from the top and passed away right the way through. And then obviously from a technology point of view, as a technology vendor, we want to have that seamless technology solution in place. So we looked at it in these three ways, right? So, and there was basically like three legs to the stool involved in here. Obviously we had IT, we had workplace, like facilities teams, and then we had our people and communities. And people and communities are made up of HR and various different focus groups within Cisco. So what we done was we worked a lot on understanding team roles, understanding how we work, how we collaborate, how we interact with each other as individual teams, and we garnished that data on a team basis, right? And we also focused on the different roles within an organization. We also then had a work stream that looked at the work style preferences, so where people choose to work, where they work from. And we'll also see that within the data that I've got coming up that I'll share with you in a minute. And then what we wanted to do was also around how our connections work, right? So how do we feel when we're working within teams? How do we connect to people? How do we remain connected? And how do we continue to measure that connectedness is another part of that. So to engage in that, we engaged with a company called Redmond. And Redmond ran some surveys for us, and we had 9,500 employees who were subjected to this survey. It incorporated 72 locations, and 300 plus of respondents came from UK and Ireland. But we also had that data then to benchmark against other industries, and Redmond had a database over 800,000, as what you can see there. But one of the things that came out within here was the satisfaction people had within their workspace, okay? And we create something called personas. And I'm sure all your organizations have persona, and you'd have the persona of the person in sales, the persona of the work style of the person in marketing, in HR, in technical support, etc. But what really came out about this was those personas needed to change for us, right? In that what really drove the customer satisfaction was what type of work environment they had, right? So as an example, you have the concept of the office index and you have the concept of the home index. And that is basically your satisfaction level with working in the office and the satisfaction level of working in the home, okay? Now, we have quite a large percentage, and we're going to put up a slide up poll in a second, that of people that work from home that have dedicated space within that home, right? And what we found was the more people that had a dedicated space, the higher the scoring for the home environment, okay? So 85% of us reported that we have a dedicated space. But with other organizations, at a level that's high, we usually find that the home customer satisfaction, user satisfaction index was higher for the home than what it was for the office. But in our case, the actual office satisfaction was higher than the home environment. So we were slightly different than what other organizations reported. And the reason for that, we put it down, is people, when they were working in the office, we have these range of collaboration tools that they can utilize and have access to. So it's a much more collaborative environment, where in the home, that wasn't the case. So we were sort of different to other organizations. What we also found in terms of those personas that we had to change is that rather than it be based on someone in sales, it had to be based on how people worked. So did people have a dedicated workspace, or did people have to do couch surfing, moving from the dining room table to the coffee room table, all of that? That was the biggest impact on how people reported their user satisfaction in all of this environment. So got a lot of insight from that survey. Some of the things that, and I'll share further, I'll go a bit deeper into this data, is the first one here, as you can see, 50% have a dedicated room or office, dedicated work area but not a separate room, 45%, and 15% a non-work such as a dining table, right? So that was 15%. And you can see how that impacts their customer satisfaction level. So if you have a dedicated work room or office, then the higher the satisfaction level. If not, then it drops down and drops down. So we have to take into consideration is these type of environments, you know, people early in career and that type of stuff that may not have access to dedicated work environments working from home. We also looked at this about working from home, and the green would be that they're very satisfied in this environment. So for instance, right, I have access to all the software applications, right, and that I need from home. That's really a no-brainer, right? And people are in agreement there. But you can see the two down the bottom, which are probably the worrying ones, which is that feeling of connection, right? And connected to their teams. So when you're working from home, is that feeling of connection to other people within the organization or to the organization itself and your team members is reduced. So that's something that we are very, very conscious about in terms of being effectively working in teams that we needed to address. And that's where this hybrid working comes about, and these collaboration hubs are key alongside this hybrid working environment. The other things which were quite surprising in the data that we found was the difference between the home and the office environment and the activities and how well they were supported, right? So you can see there the blue line is the Cisco home, the home office user, and the black line is the Cisco office. So as you would expect, for customers coming in for site visits, it's very, very hard to do that when you're working from home, right? So there's a massive gap between the office and the home office environment. But the one thing that was a big eye opener for us was this one here: learning from others, right? And there was a massive difference in how people reported between working from home and actually being in the office. So being in the office and connecting with people in person had a bigger impact in terms of people learning and how they learn from other people in the organisation. And then other things like collaborative and creative work, also a big difference. So big area for us, and a lot of thought went into this, and this is why we're now looking at this hybrid working environment. As you can see, it starts to join up here, and we call this chart like the zipper, right? So it opens at the top and down and comes together. But you can see here things like video conferencing, audio conferencing, and planned meetings. There's no real difference between the home office and the office, okay? And then you can see out here is where the home office starts outstripping, is in things like reading, private conversations, those type of things. But learning from others was a massive one that stood out to the group, because it's a key part of how we work and how we learn. Okay. What we also seen pre-COVID and post-COVID, and this data came from our WebEx graph, right? So how people are communicating and how people are collaborating. And on the chart it's a neural network, right? So you can see all the connections is January 20 pre-COVID, and then we have September 20, which is post-COVID. But you can see there that within teams, we had a lot more focus, but as we moved into COVID, it became a lot more distributed, okay? And the connections within the people and community dropped 55%. So these are worrying connections between their teams, right? So the actual connections dropped within the organizations when we went into this post-COVID world. So something also that we need to address. So taking that data and our findings that we had, we now have a three-pronged approach to this problem. So the first thing is we need to continue to improve how people are currently working remotely. How do we provide that level of learning, that connectedness, all the issues that we've seen that were problems for us within the surveys. So we continue to do that, and we'll talk about some of those things that we've got coming up in terms of technology stacks in a second. The next phase of this, as more and more people get vaccines, is how do we manage the safe return to the office? So that's the second part of this, is how we're going to be adding in, or how do we ensure that when people return to what we refer to as collaboration hubs or the office space, how do we make sure that that's a safe environment for them to connect to? And then the next part of this is then obviously the future of work. So if I take it then, the work from anywhere, and looking at those personas again, and not just having it related to role specific, it's also environment specific. So what we've also done is we've worked on our policies to actually define what a hybrid worker is. So we had policies for office workers, we had policies for remote workers, but we had to look at policies for hybrid working as well. So what we have here is various different technology stacks that we enable for the different workloads or environments that people are working in. So, for instance, one of the things that we noticed within our technical support community is that we cannot. What was a really poor experience for them was that trying to do collaboration, video sessions, screen sharing, as well as working high CPU intensive, maybe data sets on their PC, was having a really poor experience for them. So for this type of use case, what we have is dedicated video devices for these users, where we free up their PC and dedicate that CPU for handling customer issues. We also spent a lot of time...
Here's what I found.
Oh, thanks, Siri. That's Siri going a bit mad. Let me just lower that down. What we also found was we worked a lot with our executive teams because, as you would expect with Cisco, they're doing a lot of sessions with market analysts. They're doing a lot of sessions with CX level engagements with customers. So we wanted their communications experience to be top notch, right? And a lot of the time we don't have visibility into the last mile. So all of these technologies are brilliant, and where it falls down is when it gets into the home or the broadband connection and all of that good stuff, right? And it leads to a massive amount of frustration. So we also worked a lot with putting analytics on their devices using something called from Cisco called Thousand Eyes, that we can actually build up some information around how the actual last mile is performing and where the actual bottlenecks are. So the ELT has a predictable performance all the time, no matter what collaboration experience they're using. The next thing was around returning to the office. And we have a bit of hindsight here in that because we're global, we do see what's happening in Asia and Australia, and they're obviously in a much better place than we are currently. But in terms of the return to the office, what we're using is a lot of our technology. So we're taking in feeds from various different sources. So that's the badging in capability. We're taking in feeds from our wireless networking, from our network connectivity. We're taking in feeds from mobile devices that people are utilizing. And we're utilizing all of those functionalities and utilizing the data to actually alert people when they come back to the office and alerting them through digital signage. And we're using that digital signage through our room codecs. So when you walk into any Cisco meeting room here, there's information pushed up based on the current office environment, right? So the policy that you should be invoking in that room, how many people there should be in the room, all of that good stuff is in here. We're also using things like alerts. So if a policy is violated within a room, so let's say a room like this, it supports 20 people. We have a sign down here now saying that this room only supports 5 people in a post-COVID world. But in the event that a 6th person walks into this room, the video codec and the analytics in it will detect a 6th person and actually report up and report an alert on the screen, on the touch panel, and also to the various people that need to know. Okay? So that's the return to the office. So as I said, we're going to be utilizing the digital signage on our in-room devices, so alerting people in terms of the policy that needs to be followed. We're also then utilizing, you can see up here, so when alerts are exceeded or policies are violated, we get alerts onto the devices. And then as we move to phase 3, we will relaxing some of that and also just changing the digital signage as we go. And this is what the digital signage is like within Australia. So you can see somewhat different to the digital signage with the countries that are in phase 0, 1 and 2, Australia down here. And as people walk into the building, what we want to give them straight off the bat is information around where occupancy lies within the room. So as I said, we're taking in data from a variety of sources, wireless networks, CCTV cameras, BMS systems, etc. And what we're doing is we provide that information back. So straight in, when someone walks into a lobby, they can see the occupancy on the ground floor, first floor, second floor, so they can make a conscious decision where they can work from. We're also doing things like information on meeting rooms and what's the current status of meeting rooms and wayfinding within the building. So all of that information is available, and it's information that it's very easily accessed through existing networking technologies and room codecs that are in the room. We're just utilizing them as a data source. So what I'm going to do now is just quickly show you some of this functionality that we have within these room systems, particularly around the people count capability. So
to show you some of the AI functions we have buried within our units very quickly, if I turn on a little feature we call people count or facial recognition. You can see now if I go back to my, I want to have a look at my own view here, and you can see, just on self view, you can see from the image that we're now sharing, I've turned on diagnostics within the codec that we have, and you can see it's produced two boxes. I'm the speaker, so it's a double box. You can see it's identified my name. It knows that in this room is Gerry Keleghan and is Barry Redmond. We have not violated any COVID restrictions in the room. The maximum occupancy in this room is 2. We're keeping our social distance. We're doing people count. We can see that the people count in the room is 2. If a third person entered, it would be 3. We have macros to enable us to extract that information, send it to a BMS or to an external HR, perhaps HR application. And because we know who's actually in the room, we can identify them and tell them that you have violated the company's COVID policies. So a lot of this intelligence is buried natively within our endpoints. And that could be linked to, for example, is Gerry Keleghan vaccinated? Should he be in the building? Is Barry Redmond vaccinated? We have an ID against the person. So that's our people count technology. Some of the other tech that we have, if I just disable the diagnostics on that. Turn it up now. Great. So some of the other features that Barry mentioned or referred to was our ability to help users who are working from home. When working from home, and Barry alluded to this in the graph, in the zip graph, where you saw some people are working on dining room tables, they're couch surfing, and their experience is not great. The noise reduction capabilities that we have prior to what we've implemented here have not been good. So we've made several acquisitions that help us to improve the noise cancelling and aid to that user experience when working from home. And to just give you an example, I'll do a quick demo. I'll just make sure, first of all, that noise reduction is, yes, it's default. There's no noise cancellation feature on the unit. I actually went to the trouble of bringing a prop with me today. I brought my wife doesn't know I brought a hairdryer. I believe I have no need for a hairdryer, but I brought a hairdryer with me. So if I turn on the hairdryer when I speak, you'll see as I'm speaking, it is on. As I'm speaking, you probably can't hear my voice too well over the background noise from the hairdryer. Yeah. So now let me go in and turn on noise removal. And I'll turn it on now, and you should be able, as I turn on noise removal, the hairdryer is working. My noise, you should be able to hear my voice quite well above the hairdryer. So I do hope that came across. It's just an example of some of the features that we have buried into our technology to help us manage the hybrid work environment. It's native within our endpoints. It's native within our software and hardware. Back to Barry.
So then just to wrap her up, like, so the next part of this, so we spoke about first 2 elements, but then into the future workplace. And ultimately what we're going to be delivering is 3 different environments, right? So we're going to provide a set of technology that allows people to work from anywhere, right? So for hybrid workers, wherever they choose to work, we have a technology stack that enables them to work from that particular location. The middle piece is quite key for us, right? Because as I mentioned at the start, we're never going to be able to, there is a sense of disconnection from teams, from the organization when people are predominantly working from home. So we're investing a lot in what we refer to as collaboration centers or remote hubs where teams can come together and collaborate and work together. And we are working on those environments to make them a real collaborative environment. So they're not going to be your standard typical offices. But we also see a need for some people and some roles to be 100% in the office, right? So working as a residency. So all based on business need. So ultimately, that's where we're focused on, is those three elements, is continue to make the home working better, so the current environment better, the safe return to the office, and then the future of work is definitely going to be a hybrid connection based on the data and based on the understanding that we've seen to date. So that is me. So I'm going to pass you over to Helena.
Helena's going to...
Barry, I'm just going to jump in very quickly, folks. Just because you were sharing your screen and you were doing the demo, your pip was showing as a thumbnail, so I think some folks couldn't see the actual demo as clearly as maybe we would have liked it. So maybe if we can visually describe what is happening. So when Gerry turned on People Tracker or the name tags, there was a name tag appearing under Gerry's name. It was recognizing his face, it was recognizing Barry's face, and we could also tie that to the size of the room to say like only X number of people should be in this room. And if it exceeds that count, then the folks in the room will get prompted to say, there are more than 2 or 3 people in this room. So essentially someone needs to leave. So apologies, just because the screen was being shared, people are seeing the thumbnail view, but that's essentially the AI that we're describing there. Gerry, is that a fair summary?
Yeah, thanks, Patrick. Yeah, sorry, apologies for that. That we should have. Yeah, that's it in essence. And we have macros available that can be embedded in our unit to help automate that process. As long as you get intelligence from the unit, you can use that information to make certain decisions. So next, can I hand over to Helena? Helena has been doing a lot of work around the hub concept. So maybe Helena, you could share what your thoughts on digital hubs and remote working from within digital hubs.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously Gerry and Barry kind of showed you all the amazing things that our technology can do, but we're also very conscious that not every business or organisation in Ireland needs an office. So some companies only really need kind of hot desk facilities. Some just need a space where they can engage with customers. And some organisations have very, very kind of intermittent digital needs. So obviously, as part of the kind of return to the office, return to work, we want to support these different verticals and enable them to try kind of virtual ways of doing their business. So today I will talk you through some of the use cases that you could do at a kind of digitally enabled hub. So I don't just mean remote work. If you have a digitally enabled space, you can also incubate small and medium-sized companies. You could have a patient in a rural area speaking to a consultant doctor in Dublin city centre. You could have kind of pop-up digital classrooms using some of the technology that we showed off today. And then finally, you could deliver public services using obviously digitally enabled spaces. So if we can go on to the next slide there, guys, that'd be great. Brilliant. So in Israel, we piloted what we call connected hubs. So 3 of them in the south of the country in a very rural area. So the hubs themselves were aiming to create jobs. Today, the spaces are being used for remote work, for training sessions, and then also for mentoring sessions for small and medium-sized businesses, and in allowing those businesses to meet with angel investors. So the government was previously subsidising companies to set up in the periphery. It was a really expensive and ineffective way to create jobs in rural areas and for innovation diffusion. So thanks to the high usage and the success of the centres, today the government's rolling out, I think it's 60 hubs over the next 2 years as a way to obviously create jobs and promote innovation across the country. Gerry, if we could go on to the next slide there. Thanks, guys. So obviously in Ireland, the government is also looking to promote a network of digital hubs. At Cisco, we absolutely welcome this development and we think that it could be a game changer for rural Ireland. So from a rural perspective, if you have people staying local in the community, obviously that means that jobs and businesses can stay in the area. And then from an urban perspective, obviously there's less pressure on infrastructure and resources. The hubs themselves will have high-speed internet connection and be spaces for co-working. But on the next few slides, I'd like to talk you through kind of what else these hubs could potentially deliver as digitally enabled spaces. So if we rock on to the next slide there. Brilliant. Okay, so in Australia, we've set up the Digital Schools Network. So it's a network of schools that have adopted digital technologies. So with these technologies, they can take virtual school visits to connect with museums, to connect with schools or science centres, and basically learn about a variety of topics. So the two images that you can see there are basically two of the different field trips. So one of them is obviously on climate change, and the other one is on a subject called frostology, which is basically where there's a live demonstration with dry ice and liquid nitrogen, and the facilitator can engage with the student to get them to make their own slime. So the reason why I'm showing this to you is because if the student has a kind of digitally enabled space, they can visit museums, they can connect with world-class institutions, and they can connect with other schools around the world. So when we're talking about digital spaces, it's not just for the office and it's not just for remote work. There's multiple use cases that can be deployed if you have that space that has digital technology in it. And then if we go on to the next slide there, guys, brilliant. Yeah, so in terms of, we've also, in Oslo, we've also been working with the University Hospital Oslo there to reduce the amount of time that it takes for patients with brain cancer to receive treatment. So if you're unfortunate enough to be diagnosed with cancer, multiple doctors will be consulting on your treatment. Typically, the doctors need to review CAT scans together, and then they'll discuss the patient treatment options. So in Oslo University Hospital, this was taking between 6 to 8 weeks for patients with brain cancer. So we designed a solution to enable multiple high quality video streams at the same time. And so by high quality, I mean high enough that you could review medical images and medical videos for clinical diagnoses. So that solution, combined with digitally enabled rooms where the doctors can work, has reduced the amount of time for patient treatment down to 1 week. So from 6 to 8 weeks down to 1 week to decide how a patient with brain cancer should be treated. It's a great example of how you can use a digitally enabled space to improve workflows and delivery timelines. And if we go on to the next slide there, that'd be great. Brilliant. So in Kazakhstan, we've created a booth for government services. So instead of needing to present documents in person at government offices, citizens can go into the booth, which is really treated like a virtual government office. So documents are scanned securely within the booth, and they're accepted as if they had been presented in person. So the booth is really like an extension of the government offices. So it's not connected through a corridor, but through technology. And then we can go on to the final slide there for myself, guys. Brilliant, thank you. So yeah, and then in Germany also we've kind of used a similar concept as the government services booth, but instead doing it for financial services. So we created a secure environment where customer data is protected and customers can sign documents using a digital pad. So the signature is as valid as if a hard copy of the document was signed. And with this solution, obviously, the bank can deliver financial services to remote areas thanks to this digital room, which has been specifically tailored for banking services. So just to kind of summarize, I hope some of these examples give you sort of a taste of what you can do if you have a digitally enabled room. If you get the infrastructure right in the space, you can be incredibly creative with how you use it. So when we're thinking about digital spaces, please don't limit yourself to think about just a classic office environment. There are lots of other verticals. There are lots of other verticals that could benefit from digital spaces, and there's obviously lots of use cases that we can enable with the digital room. And with that, I will hand back over to yourself, Gerry and Barry.
Gerry, Barry.
The old, don't forget to unmute yourself. Many times have we done that. Thanks, Helena. What I was saying was just the reason for discussing that is to remember return to work is not just about the employee returning to the office. There are lots and lots of applications where this return to the office will affect workflows, and Helena's outlined some of the healthcare workflows, government workflows that should be considered as part of this return to the office or this hybrid work environment. So what are you going to do? when it comes to returning to the office? What plans do you have in place to manage your return to the office? So the priorities, in our view, should be, you essentially want to connect remote employees with office workers. And as Barry outlined in the zip chart, one of the key problems we encountered was lack of learning. People learn collectively when they sit and talk to people within the office. And we seem to have lost that during COVID. That connectivity feature is gone. So whatever we do, we've got to regain that connection for learning. Create better user experiences for people who are remote. And we spoke about that in terms of the kit we have assigned to various tiers of users, various personas. Have a future work strategy within your business and execute upon it. It is going to be a hybrid workplace. You're going to have this in place as we roll forward into 2022 and onwards. The next one is interesting. Reduce the real estate footprint. That's quite at times controversial, because we've already seen, Patrick mentioned that the strategy within the Galway office is to reduce the footprint of people calling, of people present in the office, and even within the Cisco office in Dublin. Yes, we will have a reduced allowance of people who can attend the office. So therefore the ask will be, the density of the office will change. Perhaps we don't need an office as big. Perhaps we should downsize. And there are a lot of conversations going on with customers now about downsizing of space and being more creative in the spaces that they have, particularly the design of huddle spaces and proper video rooms. IT manageability is key. We have to be able to manage this, manage our endpoints, manage our human interaction with our endpoints, manage our people count. But all that is available from all the tech that we have. We can do all that from a single pane of glass. Yep, audio costs key. There's no point. Our audio costs have escalated. So there's some of the reasons, some of the issues to consider when you come up with your return to work policy. And where do you spend money when you've decided what to do? Well, you're going to have to purchase elements for users. You're going to have to consider headsets, cameras, even desk devices, to make sure that people are mapped into the correct personas and that they can effectively work within the personas that they've got. The trusted workplaces that people will have would include, will those trusted workplaces have interactive whiteboards, room systems? Can we implement digital signage to warn people about upcoming events on our video endpoints? Can we design huddle spaces to be effective? Desk camera design, and I've mentioned headsets already, and I've mentioned the application management that IT needs. But all of that should encompass our hardware and software, the meetings application, the calling platform we're using, the events and messaging platform that we use today. So to map those personas, we need to consider various different work environments. And Barry alluded to this when he was talking about mapping what work functions we have in that zip chart to what should a basic home office consist of. Well, we all know it's got to be a Mac. It's got to be a computing device of some description, PC or Mac. Cell phone, can use a client. Can the user use headsets? Headsets are becoming very, very important because a lot of users today have simply gone out and purchased. They're using, if you haven't noticed, they're using the Apple headphones, which work great on Apple. When you use them on a different machine, perhaps they're not as good. Perhaps on a PC, they're not as good. So other ergonomic considerations are, are users using the old dining room chair as a result of having bad backs? Should we be using the 5-wheeled chairs? Licensing options for headsets, for monitors, for the basic home office is key. Then for the exec home office, where we come up, perhaps that user needs the video device. The only example I'm using is the Cisco video device, but it could be another video-enabled device. The benefit of a video-enabled device, guys, it takes the video processing off the workload. The workload is taken off the PC. So the codec handles the video and audio. So it means that the user is free to use the laptop or PC normally, but offload the processing to another device, be it Cisco or somebody else. But for the exec, this has proven to be key during COVID. Certainly for us, a lot of us are fortunate enough to have a video desk device. But it means that when we're manipulating large spreadsheets or doing a lot of CPU intensive work, it can be safely done on the laptop, and the video is offloaded to the second video monitor. And also, all the units should have docking stations, perhaps HDMI transfer, USB pass-through, so I can actually touch the screen and control my laptop. So all of those features have been key for execs. Hot desking. We view hot desking, particularly when we go to the new world, the hybrid work environment, where people are returning to the office. Your old desk may be gone because we may have to share a desk environment. And we've brought out technology such as the little unit you see on the right called a hub. You walk in, drop your mobile device on for charging, connect to a laptop, and it'll tell you your upcoming meetings, join your upcoming meeting, charge your headset. So a lot of technology happening around hot desking because we believe hot desking will be a key feature when we return to the office. And lastly, huddle spaces were top of mind pre-COVID. Almost every customer was considering this huddled space idea because technology had gradually drifted down into the lower end collaboration space. But because of COVID and post-COVID, these lower end collaboration spaces have become more and more crucial now. And as people look at real estate that they have in the business, they're looking at converting some of those spaces that they have to small collaborative spaces with huddle rooms. Some of these spaces have 3 or 4 people. They have a single sound bar, a single video and audio device to handle collaboration within a confined space. Thanks, Barry. Next one, I think we're mobile worker. Most of us today are mobile workers. Yeah, we've got the access to mobile devices. We've also revamped our technology for managing meeting rooms. We have the room navigator, the ability to manage and book and assign the room from outside the device, as well as control it from within. And I think, so key takeaways then from us to wrap up. There's the first expression is not new. Work is a thing you do, not a place you go to, but has never been as important as it is now with this working from home environment. We've realized that most of us, unless you're in manufacturing or retail, you can work pretty much from anywhere. So in our view, the future of work concept or the discussions around future of work need to involve HR, facilities, and you need to be cognizant of the fact that it is a technical challenge that needs to be overcome. Barry alluded to some of the Lehman strategy. It's got to be data driven. Any decisions you make have got to be backed up by solid, sensible, some data. And we're happy to share the data we have from our internal Cisco experiences with customers, if you're interested. Be creative. The new digital workspace is going to be different to what we've been used to before. Design it based on personas. You need to sit down for your business and work out what are your personas, what do your employees need, and build your workspace, your future workspace based on those personas. And also, there is a commercial consideration and an energy consideration here. Think about how many pounds on meters squared wattage enables the goals that you want to achieve a meaningful digital workplace, a digital strategy. And that's it from us, Patrick. I think we managed to do it just on time, did we?
Yeah, excellent. Very good. If anyone has any questions in the last minute